of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. It will be moved by the leader of Majority Party, and this particular motion is seeking the approval of Stephen Omari Odero, a male youth representative, Duncan Mulo Anduva, a male adult representative, Sabina Warukira Wanjohi, female youth representative, Lynette Mugasiali Madete, female adult representative, Vincent Odongo Bunde, representative of persons living with disability, Abana Samuikia Musau, nominee of the constituency office, that is a male nominee. The female nominee is Lydia Kwamboka Ombogi, and members of the National Assembly shall make a decision as to whether these nominees are fit to serve in that Embakasi South Constituency Committee. A mediated version of the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of the year 2017, is also awaiting approval by members of the National Assembly this morning. The Warehouse Receipts System Bill seeking to provide a legal framework for development and regulation of a warehouse receipt system for agricultural commodities to address marketing challenges associated with cereals and the grain subsectors in the country. A live broadcast brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. It is also available on KBC Radio Taifa. My colleagues Tilio Marco and Samuel Musita are doing justice over there by way of keeping you informed. It is also available. Justice M. Murunga will be seeking Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government concerning incidences of insecurity in Matungu constituency, Kakamega County. And he wants to know what measures the ministry is putting in place to end the cases of killings that are causing insecurity in Matungu constituency. Member of Parliament, Samburu West, Honorable Naisula Lesuda, also has a question for the Cabinet Secretary, Interior and Coordination of National Government. And it is about the abduction of a minor, John Kiano, who's aged below 4 years. He was abducted from Tipuana Apartments on Brookside Gardens, Westlands, by persons believed to be security personnel. And she wants to know whether the Cabinet Secretary is aware about this case and whether there is any investigation into the matter. The Honorable Ayub Savula, Member of Parliament, Lugari constituency, has a question to the Cabinet Secretary, Environment and Forestry, concerning progress made in the gazettement of Mautuma Settlement Scheme of Tarbo Forest Reserve Area in his constituency, 1,577.86 hectares. And he wants to know whether due process was undertaken in that exercise. Member for Meru County, Honorable Bishop Kawera Mwangaza, will be seeking to know from the Cabinet Secretary, Education, the fate of about 370,000 students from Meru County as regards to acquisition of birth certificates, a document they require in order to register for national examinations, and whether the ministry is considering extending the period of registration for national examinations to ensure the students are captured or are able to enlist. And then the last one is from the Member of Parliament, Borabu constituency, Honorable Ben Momanyi. His question will be to the Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development Cabinet Secretary. And he wants to know whether the CS is aware of the construction of Kebirigo-Musobeti Road that has stalled despite the contract being awarded way back in 2014. a project that was to take 18 months, but is yet to be completed. The Sergeant at Arms, keeping the records there. A minimum 50 members required for business to be transacted this morning, as it is the norm in all other sittings, and they are indicating that that quorum has been achieved.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority Party. Oh, it is the Majority Whip? Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Leader of Majority Party, I beg to lay the following papers on the top of the House today, Thursday, May 9th, 2019, morning sitting. 1, the annual public debt management reports for the financial year 2015, 2016, and financial year 2016, 2017 from the National Treasury. 2, the report of the Auditor General financial statements of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company Limited Rural Electrification Scheme for the year ended 30th June 2018 and the certificate therein. 3, the reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2018 and the certificate therein. A, Kiharu, B, Runyanjes, C, Nyali, D, Kisauni, E, Buri, F, Saku, G, Mbeere, H, Samburu West, I, Likuyani, J, Bobasi, K, Embakasi West, L, Kitui Central, M, South Imendi, and N, Roysambu. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, let's have now the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Health. Use the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, May 09, 2019. Report of the Departmental Committee on Health laid on the table of the House on Thursday, May 09, 2019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Under this particular order, we do not have statements, so we will go straight to questions. And we will start with the ordinary questions by member for Bonchari, Honorable Oro Oyoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 220 of 2019. The question is posed to the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary state how many university and colleges graduates with degrees, diplomas, and certificates have secured internship opportunities in the public service since the enactment of the National Employment Authority Act number 3 of 2016? 2, what measures is the ministry putting in place to facilitate Kenyans in securing internship and attachment opportunities in public service? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. And I'm trying to look at whether you are just lucky, Honorable Roy Yoka, because you seem to, most likely, you are going to ask that question in the afternoon. So you are just a lucky one because I have both the other papers. So we'll go back to what is supposed to be asked this morning. And we will go to the member for Matungu, Honorable Justice Murunga. Yours is coming in the afternoon. But why are you having a problem asking it anyway? And you are here. Just allow some consultations, honorable members. Honorable Murunga, yours is properly supposed to be asked in the morning. The little confusion is because you obviously know we would not have had the morning session today. It is something that came out about as a matter of resolution that was made yesterday afternoon. So just ask it because you have it and it will still be worked on. Honorable Murunga, please use this, the dispatch box microphone. Thank you. But honorable members, be assured, by the time we come from recess, all the mics will be working.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to ask the following questions to the Minister of Interior. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware of the increased instances of insecurity in Matungu constituency of Kakamega County in the last few months, whereby more than 12 people have been killed, including 2 students? Question number 2, what measures is the ministry putting in place to end these killings and improve security in Matungu constituency? 3, is the minister, the Cabinet Secretary, further aware that police station in Matungu constituency does not have a patrol vehicle to transport officers to areas of duty and emergencies, and that the member of police officers have served in the same station for more than 7 years? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, and again, I must clarify that, remember, we were not going to have the morning session. So you actually were right, Honorable Murunga, that your question would have come in the afternoon. That is to say, you are a techno-savvy member of Parliament, you are using your systems properly. Now, but all the same, you have lost nothing. In fact, you have gained, because it is going to hit the committee earlier than should have happened. So that one will be committed to the Committee on Administration and National Security. It will be replied to there. Now we go back to what is supposed to be for this morning. So, thought not to be techno-savvy. So let's proceed to the next one. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Now we will go to the member for Kirinyaga County, Honorable Purity Ngirishi. Yes, well, on this one, ordinarily, we would obviously drop the question. But because of the relative confusion on whether members were to ask the questions in the morning or afternoon, we will slot it for the afternoon. So she should be informed that her question will be coming in the afternoon. Go to the next member, that is Honorable Alicia Ochieng Odhiambo, member for GEM. I do not know if it will be clear, but let's try and see.
Thank you.
It is okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to ask question 231 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Technology. Roman 1, is the Cabinet Secretary aware of the recent sudden increase of local telephone call charges from Kenya shillings 4 to Kenya shillings 7 per minute charged by Safaricom PLC? Question 2, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify the criteria used by telecommunication companies in charging mobile data, given the recent complaints by a section of Safaricom subscribers regarding the mobile data charges? Could the Cabinet Secretary outline mechanisms put in place by the Ministry to protect unsuspecting subscribers from manipulation by such telecommunication service provider? Thank you.
Very well. So we'll go to the next order, because that was the last question. Next order, please.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Committee of the Wool House on the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments. Number 2, Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2018. Question to be put in third reading.
Honorable members, I can confirm that we have the required numbers. And therefore, I put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Public Investment Committee on inquiry. Just a minute. Is that the one? Okay. So I put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Let's have the mover to move third reading, please.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to beg, I beg to move that the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments number 2, Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2018 be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Mbadi to second.
Thank you very much. So I propose a question. Order. Order. You freeze completely, completely. So I propose the question, which is that the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2018 be now read a third time. I see no major interest. What is it, Honorable TJ? Member
Chair,
for
let me
Waraka.
go on record, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me go on record to thank the government that has brought this bill. But I think we need to discuss seriously in this House what is the use of statute miscellaneous bills. If you are going to go this direction with the legislation, Kenyans will suffer. Because we saw in this legislation the provisions in Gaming Act, provisions in procurement law. A lot of heavy stuff was introduced through miscellaneous law amendments. And some of these things need policy papers to be able to guide us on where the country is going on some of the issues that have huge implications. For example, punitive laws. Some cabinet secretary wakes up and proposes 10 million or 20 years in prison. You do not know what kind of statistics, what kind of penalty philosophy that has gone into that decision. And they come by statute miscellaneous amendments. If you're going to go this direction, I'm afraid things will not work. And I think it is high time we did a legislation to control the manner in which government officers are able to propose legislation through statute law miscellaneous application. For example, there is a section which went through, I think it is in section 48 of Gaming Act, in which one part of legislation is different from the proviso. So what we now have, which will go on record, you will have subsection A, which does not refer completely to subsection 2, and therefore making the entire section not agreeable. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, whereas I put my voice in complimenting the other side for bringing this legislation, I think we need to agree. And Leader of Majority, this is a discussion from the heart of members, that we are tired of complaining about miscellaneous, and we fight for no reason in chamber. Just because a lot of things come here, they surprise us, they have not gone for public participation, we have not thought them through. If officers at the ministries will bring these pieces of legislation, then let us have a law which will guide them. What is it you can provide in the act? How far should it reach? So that it gives us more time to be able to do the work which we are here for. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of Majority Party.
Chair, I agree with the Honorable TJ. The problem, in fact, is one, committees have submitted a report. The problem is not even government. When government brings the statute law miscellaneous amendment bill to do minor amendments, then committees take advantage of that, and they use that to open many, many amendments. If you see, most of the amendments were from members and from the committees who make the whole thing look very substantial. Because in the bill, it's just, delete this. But the moment they get an avenue to ride on, members bring amendments, committees, chairs bring amendments, until it goes to what Honorable TJ is saying. It becomes now a serious legislation taking place. So I think even the clerk's office and the speaker's office also need to guide that at what stage and how and at what scope can you amend something. So like yesterday, and I want to go on record, that's why I came early this morning, and Honorable TJ, most members were not here, very few were here. There's a trend which is developing here. That if you are following the last 4 days when we were dealing with this statute law miscellaneous amendment bill, in every critical area, there are certain vested interests. When we were dealing with the betting issue, there were people who only their business was to protect the betting industry. And once we've concluded those amendments, and they were rejecting the heavy penalties. The moment we finished that, they left the chamber. Then we went to the health laws. When we went to the health laws or NHIF, all the members who are representing unions and those who have interest were here. The moment we finished the NHIF sections, they left. Then yesterday, we were again hostage of the contractors. The moment we reached, people who are representing, I'm saying when we reached, Honorable Bandi was not here yesterday.
The Leader of Majority is not on a point of order, so surely the Leader of Minority is perfectly in order to raise that. What is it?
Mr. Speaker, is the leader of majority in order to impute improper motive on other members of parliament? Mr. Speaker, we all know that members of parliament contribute to different bills or sections of bills as and when they are available. And interest is nothing, there's nothing wrong with interest unless it is pecuniary interest or any other interest that confers a benefit to a honorable member. So, Mr. Speaker, trying to, let me call it scandalize Parliament by saying that members are here to hold brief for others. Mr. Speaker, I don't hold brief for anyone, and when I participate in a legislation, I participate in a legislation which is important. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to raise, so
but that's extremely dangerous, leader of minority, because
I want the leader of majority.
Order, because if you say you hold, you don't have any interest on any particular thing, or you don't hold forth for anybody, I think that's fairly dangerous, because you surely are here having quite a lot of interest. I mean, at the very least, your own constituents.
I think, Mr. Speaker, probably you didn't get me right. Yes. I said when I started that there's nothing wrong really with having interest, and holding forth representation is not, in my view, holding brief, because the way I understand it, I represent Kenyans, not even just Super South, because I'm a member of the National Assembly. But, Mr. Speaker, I think the leader of majority needs to withdraw. He cannot, unless he has evidence, because this idea of just generalizing, making general statements, scandalizes the entire parliament. The leader of majority, if he has evidence of people who have come here to represent some specific interests, he should name them.
Okay, as even I know, before I give it back to the leader of majority, let me hear what Honorable Maoka Maore has to say. But in any case, in any case, the Speaker this afternoon will be issuing a comprehensive statement on what would constitute something that requires a member to declare interest. So I think that will almost resolve most of these issues. But let's hear what Honorable Maore has to say. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I was also expressing the same reservations, that the majority leader has a serious observation he stated about the general trend. And if you remember, even last year, when the Speaker gave an equally comprehensive statement about the conflict of interest, the same member was very persistent in defending the cartels that were...
You know, we need to save, and there's an element of conflict of interest. There's nothing wrong. But this was a very unique session. There are a group of MPs who left after we finished the NHIF. There was a group of people who left after we finished on the betting. And there was yesterday the non-contractors, members of parliament who are contractors. And they brought amendments which we rejected. So this is not a way. We do legislation for the posterity, for the people of Kenya. We cannot come to the House to legislate for ourselves. That's what I'm saying. And if I am pushed to the corner, I can provide a list of members. And that's why I'm a leader. Yes, I will. And I'm not saying it's all members of parliament, but I think that the standing order is very, very clear. Even in a committee where you are sitting, before the deliberation begins, you must declare your interest so that it's recorded. We are not here. So, Honorable Bandi, if you were here yesterday evening, the kind of amendments, an amendment like, Mr. Speaker, for your information, was the one which was saying that contractors must be paid within 30 days. We ask ourselves, government collects money after the end of the month, after 30 days. So they're collecting money after 30 days to pay you. So how do they pay you every 30 days? Then there was the issue of which even passed, the issue of issuing of promissory notes. Promissory notes were discarded by government after Anglo-leasing. Because the moment you hold a promissory note against government, whether you have supplied hot air, that means you can sue government after 20 years. Those are the kind of amendments which were brought on the floor of the House by members. But I think I'm happy. I really want to ask members, please let us participate in the committee of the whole House. That is where the lawmaking really takes place. The second reading is not just the debate, but let us specifically, beginning this morning, when the chair for NSCIC is going to bring his bill, and even the Division of Revenue, let us create more time. But I really want to thank that yesterday we concluded this, despite the issue raised by Honorable TJ, which I think is valid, and we will look at it, how to resolve that matter. It's a very valid, it's a contradiction, in fact. So I beg to support.
Honorable Ntoimaga.
Mr. Speaker, I think majority leader is being unfair because I was here yesterday in the evening when we were discussing
Now,
about...
are you rising on a point of order
Yes,
or you are contributing?
yes, but I'm saying is that when I was here, I was not a contractor yesterday. I was actually contributing on the issue concerning women, youth. So it's not about all of us being here yesterday being a contractors. We were just deliberating and making laws that can assist our people to be able to do business with the government, and specifically women and youth.
Okay. Honorable Mboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think the issues raised by TJ Kajwang were very, very strong, and without losing the organic spirit that he had, my feeling is that we should retain what he had per se, whether we are having interest or no interest, but interests are a must for everybody who is in Parliament, and also members have to contribute to issues that they have researched and they are very knowledgeable about them and may leave others where they have not researched. But back to TJ Kajwang's argument, the miscellaneous amendment bills are bringing very substantive amendments or changes in law. And I'm happy that the leader of the House Business has indicated that it's actually ourselves who exacerbate these amendments once they arise in the form in which they come from government. But I want to say that having this trend going on, currently, Honorable Speaker, we are following the miscellaneous amendment bills with a little bit more consciousness at the expense of the other serious businesses also. Not that this is not serious, which we should be handling, because they are being used as conduits to bring real changes, real structural changes in law. And therefore, keeping the spirit of TJ Kajwang, I think we should have a legislation that limits to which extent these miscellaneous amendment bills can actually change the law. And the leader of the House should actually support that spirit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay. Though, of course, Honorable Mboko Milemba, I thought the leader of majority actually supported that position with another rider, that on the one hand, whereas we are saying that there should be no major legislative changes in a miscellaneous amendment, he's also saying members sometimes actually add to this by creating more, proposing more changes even, so those kind of things. But I think all the members make quite some sense. So to save on, because I see the issue of quorum is going to be a problem, let me put the question. So I put the question, which is that, having of course confirmed that we have the requisite quorum, I put the question, which is that the statute miscellaneous amendment number 2 bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2018 be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of Parliament to make various amendments to the statute law. Order number 9, motion, approval of nominees to Embakasi South Constituency Committee of the National Government Constituency Development Fund.
Leader Majority Party? Oh, it is Chair CDF.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5, 9 and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the following nominees for the appointments to the Embakasi South Constituency Committee of the National Government Development Fund. laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, May the 8th, 2019, that is Stephen female. Now, Mr. Speaker, you'll notice that the Embakasi South constituency has had a by-election, and it is necessary for us to allow these nominees, for the purpose of the member and the constituents, to be able to utilize the CDF disbursement that come from the board, and the fact that we are going on recess sometime later, it is necessary that we do let the member have this board so that he is able to conduct business, and it may not be feasible for us to hold. Now that he has brought the names, the House feels necessary to tell the member and the nominees that they are ready to work. They have gone through the legal department of the board, so they all meet the criteria, and we are just doing our duty as the National Assembly to approve the nominees. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to understand that this is not a very complicated motion, and I beg to move and ask
who is seconding you?
Bukose to second.
Okay, Honorable Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to second this motion that the nominees appointed to the Embakasi South Constituency, National Government Constituency Development Fund be approved by the House. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the people of Embakasi for having put their faith in Honorable Mawade, and despite going into a by-election, they were able to return him with a landslide. This shows the confidence the people of Embakasi have on Honorable Mawade for his work that he had shown for the short time he had been in Parliament. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mawade also happens to have been a member of the Committee on Energy and a very active member for that. And we are hoping that the minority leader will return him back to the Committee on... Okay, I'm late in news. I want to thank the minority leader and the chairman for selection for having returned Honorable Mawade back to the Committee on Energy. Mr. Speaker, he's a very active member, and this also shows the maturity in the leadership of the minority, that they were not able to discriminate against him.
Honorable Bukose.
Yes.
You have been given an opportunity to second, but instead you decided to...
I'm seconding, Honorable Speaker. But I'm also thanking him because, you know, the minority leader has done us.
Maybe you should be thanking Mawade for retaining maybe the members.
Yes, I've thanked him already. I've thanked him already. But you see, minority leader has also returned him to our committee. Yes. So he deserves credit. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Very well. So I propose a question. Which is that, pursuant to provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5, bracket 9 and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the following nominees for appointments to the Embakasi South Constituency Committee for the National Government Constituency Development Fund, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, May 8, 2019. 1, Stephen Omari Odero, male youth representative. 2, Duncan Mulwanduva, male adult representative. 3, Sabina Warukira Wanjohi, female youth representative. 4, Lynette Mugasiali Madete, female adult representative. 4, Vincent Odongo Mbunde, representative of persons living with disability. 5, Abanas Mwikia Musau, nominee. 6, Abanas Mwikia Musau, and members should be listening very quietly and attentively. I said 6. 6, Abanas Mwikia Musau, nominee for the constituency office, male. And 7, Lydia Kwamboka Obwongi, nominee of the constituency office, female. We will start with the leader of Minority Party, Honorable Mbadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to congratulate the MP for Embakasi South for winning back his seat, even though he defeated a candidate from my party. But I want to congratulate him. I know how it's frustrating to serve for just a short time and then leave Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, Honorable Mwawade, positive development in CDF. There are some people who even want it scrapped.
Leader of Minority, are you suggesting that 2.6 is within the marginal error?
No,
Yes,
no.
proceed.
What I was saying, Mr. Speaker, I'm not justifying wastage of even a shilling.
I'm saying,
yes.
Normally I see
It
mathematicians.
could have been the marginal error.
Within the
Mr.
marginal error.
I didn't know you're a mathematician, Mr. Speaker. I thought I am, and I've always imagined and believed that you are just a lawyer, that is it. But I think probably in those low levels of education where you went through, you must have done some statistics and some maths. But, Mr. Speaker, what I meant to say is that this is the only fund that, to me, has received a positive verdict. And, Mr. Speaker, again, you can even see the results of CDF across the country. But as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, there is a trick why CDF is successful. And the trick is that this is the only fund which is budgeted direct to projects. And, Mr. Speaker, even money that goes to counties, it is high time that as a country we started thinking of how do we link the budget direct to specific projects so that implementation is direct and easy. Because, Mr. Speaker, giving a budget to people to play around with, that is why you see possible chances of templates being introduced with budget lines that don't exist in counties, and then reports are brought all the way to the Senate. And, Mr. Speaker, for the report to reach Parliament, it must have gone through a lot of processes. And we are seeing reports in the Senate which don't make even sense. Mr. Speaker, that is because we as a country have not thought seriously on how to link our budget to specific projects for implementation. In fact, we changed our budgeting to program-based. Mr. Speaker, I think this is not the right time for me to engage because I have a lot to say on this, but in a nutshell, I think we need now to seriously think of how to link the funding direct to projects to lower possibility of misuse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Mamoima Onyonka.
Mimi ningependa kusema kuwa asante ndugu Spika kwa kunipa hii nafasi nilizungumzie hili jambo ambalo ni jambo la muhimu sana katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Pesa za CDF ni pesa ambazo historia yake imeleta maendeleo Kenya. Ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema kuwa kwa wale ndugu zangu mko hapa wabunge, ningependa kuwaelezea kuwa mimi nimechaguliwa kutoka Kituru Chache Kusini, eneo wakilishi, kwa sababu kazi ambayo hela zetu za CDF inafanya ndio inawaridhisha wananchi kunipigia kura mara 3 mfululizo. Ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema kuwa kwanza nitawapea heshima sana wazee walioanzisha kazi hii kama mzee Jimmy Angwenyi na wale wabunge wengine ambao walishika doria, ambao waliuliza Rais Kibaki kuhakikisha kuwa hizi hela ambazo zimeenda kwa mashinani zilianza kwenda miaka 10 iliyopita na hizi hela zimefanya kazi. Vile ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Abadi amesema, ingekuwa vizuri kwanza hizi hela za CDF tuongezewe. 2 kwa 5 kwa 100 hazitoshi. Kama ile kazi ambayo inafanyika wakati huu kwa kazi ya kujenga mashule. Ukiangalia ndugu Spika, wakati huu zile pesa ambazo zinafika mashinani, Ukiangalia wakati huu serikali imeleta nia na njia ya kuhakikisha kuwa wanafunzi wote ambao wamemaliza kidato cha 8 waende form 1 na form 2. Inaonekana kuwa lazima sasa tuanze kujenga mashule mengi na kuhakikisha hawa wanafunzi wanaenda shule vilivyo. Ndugu Spika, ningependa kumalizia kusema hivi. Wabunge wale ambao mko hapa, tafadhali muhakikishe kuwa mwaka ujao tuongeze hela za CDF ifike 5 kwa 100 ili hizi pesa ziendelee kusaidia wananchi wa kawaida. Kwa sababu ukiangalia vile Mheshimiwa Mbadi amesema, pesa ambazo mabilioni na mabilioni ambazo serikali za mashinani za county zinapewa, hauoni ni kitu gani inafanya. Lakini ukiangalia pesa ambazo mbunge anapewa na azizidi kuliko zaidi ya shilingi milioni 75, zinafanya kazi nzuri na wananchi wanaridhika. Kwa hivyo ningependa kusema kuwa namshukuru Mheshimiwa Mawadhe ambaye nilimfanyia kampeni kule Embakasi. Ndugu Spika, kitu ambacho kilinishtua kule Embakasi ni hiki. Wakati Mawadhe alikuwa mbunge, kabla ya kura zake wakati huu kuja, alienda akachukua vitongoji duni kule Embakasi Kusini. Ukiangalia ile kazi ambayo ilifanywa, hata mimi nilishtuka. Kwa hivyo ningependa kumsihi ndugu Mawadhe aendelee kuwasaidia wananchi wake, na tena nashukuru sana. Ukiangalia yale majina ameyatoa hapa ambayo leo yatapitishwa na hili bunge, ni wananchi kutoka makabila mbalimbali hapa Kenya, na inaonyesha kuwa ndugu Mawadhe kama mbunge wa Embakasi Kusini si mkabila, lakini ni Mkenya halisi. Asante sana ndugu Speaker.
I will give 2 more members, but very briefly, starting with Honorable Gikaria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want just to support, first I want to say to Mawadhe, who is in our committee, that it is congrats to him for having re-elected to be a member of Parliament of Embakasi South. And secondly, just as Honorable Bandi had said, if you look at the list, Honorable Speaker, the list cuts across. And Mawadhe, coming from a cosmopolitan constituency, I think he has done very well in terms of trying to balance on who is picked. But I don't know whether it is Mawadhe or it is the CDF who are supposed to be doing the appointment. I think it is these appointments, it's not Mawadhe who has brought. This appointment, as per the Act, they have been appointed by the board itself. And I think, much as we give praises to Honorable Mawadhe, I think the board has done a great honor to be able to pick people from cutting across from different communities. But however, Honorable Speaker, and this is something that has come to our knowledge, particularly the committee. Honorable Speaker, as we are going for recess now for a whole 1 month, Honorable Speaker, the disbursement to the CDF, to the constituencies, it is still at less than 50%, and with only a month to go. Honorable Speaker, I think the committee, which is led by my brother Maoka Maore, they need to do something about disbursement of CDF. Honorable Speaker, as we are talking now, we had allocated monies at the constituencies to do different projects, but they have not even started. And with only a month to go, Honorable Speaker, I think the committee needs, and the board, they need to do something and be able to disperse as soon as possible. As we go towards to the recess, we can have monies to be able to continue with the projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. And lastly, I would have given Honorable Wangwe, but he's all over, so I'll give no, I'll give someone else. Okay, Honorable Wangwe, but you know you must be ready to.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I must thank you so much for giving me this time. First and foremost, allow me to congratulate Honorable Mawadhe upon his re-election. He is my good colleague. My voice is that whereas we are voting for these names, the question is, do we have the money for Embakasi South? When we pass them today, the members can start working. The answer is unknown, Honorable Speaker. So my question is, let CDF board give members their money on time. As we talk now, Honorable Speaker, most of the constituencies are having 50%, and we just have 2 months, actually 1 month ahead of us to end the year. The question is, what will be the absorption capacity of the constituencies when it comes to end of the year? So let us push, all of us, Honorable Speaker.
What is your point of order, Leader of Majority Party?
My Honorable Speaker, my very good friend, Honorable Wangwe, is a member of the Parliamentary CDF Committee. We have sent him to go and look money for us. And he cannot come and lament. Speaker, is he in order that this is the person we have sent to deal with the board, and now he's complaining, which means, and his chairman is sitting behind me here. So he should tell us, he is the one to tell us why we are not getting money.
Maybe as the chairperson selection committee, it is something you need to look at. But honestly, Honorable Wangwe, as a member of that committee, you really don't need to.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Hey, Jimmy, what is it? Honorable Jimmy. You know, it is not normal for you to.
John. Mr. Speaker, although the member is a member of the committee, he is a member who represents his people. And he represents them in this parliament, not in the committee. So he has got a mandate to express himself on behalf of his people.
No.
And also actually on behalf of some of us, where that committee has allowed the government to reduce the amount of money they allocate for CDF below 2.5%.
So, Jimmy, you know you've been a trade union for a long time. You've been a trade unionist for a long time.
Thank you.
No, just order. Jimmy, there are two issues that you should be very clear about. Number one, you know it was the leader of majority who had made that point of order. Now you are his immediate deputy. Ordinarily, a deputy does not contradict the boss. Now, but you already did that. But you know, so let's hear what Honorable Wangwe has to say. But of course, with the guidance that.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I made that point very clearly, considering that I'm a member of NGCDF committee of the Select Committee on the National Assembly, and Honorable Speaker, my revelation is just part of the discussions that we are putting through in the committee. Therefore, it is not a complaint, Honorable Speaker. But I was trying to...
Order, Honorable Kositany. Order. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as the Leader of Majority was saying, it's not a complaint. I'm only trying to push it through the members today on the floor so that let them be aware, Honorable Speaker, that most of the constituencies have got 50% of their CDF into the accounts. That's a situation which everyone should be worried, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, with that in mind, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Okay, that marks the end of it. And the honorable members, we will not be putting a question for obvious reasons. So that one will be done in the next sitting, probably this afternoon. Next order. Oh, sorry. Sorry, before we even think or contemplate of putting, just in case we will get quorum in due course, let the mover reply, please.
Mr. Speaker, I do wish to thank members who have contributed to this motion and also the weight of us approving these members for the committee, and also clarify what has just been flying around about us receiving 50% as of now. Those were treasury disbursement, Mr. Speaker, which we would expect by now to be nearly 70–80% as we are ending the financial year. But what they have been disbursing of late, between this week, last week, and the next 2 weeks before the end of May, we should be able to reach nearly 80% before 30th of June. So with those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Well, thank you very much. And the position remains the same, that we will not be putting the question for now, till the next, till afternoon. Next order, please.
Order number 10, motion, mediated version of the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017.
Is it the leader of majority?
Not is it, it is the leader of majority.
Who is going to move it?
Yes.
Okay, proceed, because it's not indicated here. If you
I
look
am
at
the
your,
vice
if you
chairperson.
look at your...
I'm the vice chairperson
Oh, you are the vice chair.
of the mediated.
That's why, you know, I would not have expected at
Yes.
all that the leader of majority is
Can
a
be a
vice
vice
chair
chair.
anywhere. So proceed.
When I met the Senate, they made me vice chair.
Okay.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Article 113, table of the House on Wednesday, May 8, 2019, and approves the mediated version of the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017. Speaker, I beg to give a brief history. Allow me to give a brief background on this bill. This bill seeks to provide a legal framework for the development and regulation of a warehouse receipt system for agricultural commodities, and for this purpose, to provide for the establishment of a warehouse receipt system council, which will oversight, which will regulate and implement this system called the warehouse receipt system. The Speaker, this Senate bill was published on 10th of November 2017 and read for the second time, and that's just history. Let me just go to the nitty-gritty. So the Senate considered the amendments forwarded by the National Assembly, that was their bill, and rejected some of them on the 14th of March 2019.
Order. Okay, proceed, leader.
And make sure, members, if you have not known, you don't greet using your hand, Honorable Wanyama. You just wave to him. Yeah. Because you will break your hand.
You are warned.
So, Mr. Speaker, they rejected some of our amendments, and pursuant to Article 113 of the Constitution and Standing Order 146 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, and Standing Order 161 of the Senate, this bill was referred to a mediation committee with the sole objective of developing a version of the bill that could be presented to both houses for approval. Chair, I really want to thank the members of the mediation committee from our side, and that which was led by Senator Njeru Ndiga of Embu. And I have never seen a better committee than that. I'm sure Honorable TJ Kajwang will tell me what we went through in the mediated session of the transport. Honorable Bandi will tell you about the physical planning. But this was a very, very good mediated committee. And I'm happy to report that the committee held fruitful discussions for only 2 hours. And we developed a version of the bill that was agreed to by both houses. And the committee held its meeting on 30th April 2019, agreed on everything, and we adopted it on 7th of May 2019. So, Speaker, the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, and Fisheries, through a report laid on the table of the 14th of March, rejected clauses 2 on the definition of the terms holder, warehouse receipt, and many, many other sections, 11, section 17, section 21.5, section 23, section 24, 26, and enough, for instance, under clause 43 of the mediated version, issuance of a fraudulent warehouse receipt attract a penalty of an imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, or a fine not exceeding 10 million. And this is, the spirit behind that was that this warehouse will keep goods of farmers or other stakeholders. So if there is a fraudulent receipt that will lead to a loss of goods and services, then the penalty must be very high. We picked it from what is happening in the housing sector. You remember the 10,000 and the 3 months. So we felt that the penalty must be very high. So all the report is ready, but we have agreed, and my colleagues are here who are in the warehouse receipt subcommittee led by the Chair of Agriculture. And as I conclude, my Honorable Speaker, permit me to express my gratitude to Senator Njeru Ndiga for ably chairing the Mediation Committee, and senators and members of the National Assembly, Honorable Wanyonyi of Kwanza, the Chair of Agriculture, Dr. Mutunga, and the Deputy Minority Leader, Honorable Mbui, who was also with us. And for the first time, I can report that out of the 5 bills that were sent to the Mediation Committee, this was agreed on, and I really want to seek the House to approve and concur, and then once the Senate approves their version, we take it to the President for signature. I beg to move and ask the Chair of Agriculture, who was a member of the committee, to second.
Proceed, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the onset, I wish to second. Just before I make my comments, Honorable Speaker, like we mentioned yesterday, this gadget is too short, and if I stand upright, this House may not hear me. So I'm requesting, and this is what I was discussing yesterday, for some of us, my constituents often complain that I'm too much always bending. So we should be actually try to help those who are vertically endowed. Mr. Speaker, the Warehouse Receipt Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017, was published on the 10th of November, like our majority leader said. The purpose of the bill is to give effect to the 4th schedule of the Constitution in relation to agriculture and trade by providing legal framework for regulation and development of the warehouse receipt system for agricultural commodities to cure, among other things, the challenge of marketing cereal produce in the country. Mr. Speaker, details have already been mentioned by the majority leader, which I don't wish to repeat. But, Mr. Speaker, warehouse receipt system is, in short, the best thing that has happened to Kenya post-independence. Mr. Speaker, warehouse receipt system enables depositors to leverage on financing against stored commodity, Mr. Speaker, and it ensures trade securities in agricultural sector, in producers, farmers, circles, traders, and processors. Mr. Speaker, this has the effect of reducing post-harvest losses by safe storage of excess grain at harvest time, and therefore prolonging the sales season and reducing price fluctuation. Mr. Speaker, the bill therefore addresses the following challenges that our Kenyan farmers continue to have at the moment. Mr. Speaker, the bill addresses, among other things, 1, access to credit through use of agricultural commodities as collateral. What that means is basically the farmers can take their produce or cereals to the warehouse receipt system for safe deposit, where they pay a little fee for the commodities, and they can, upon accessing the receipt, they can be able to use that as collateral to gain access to financial instruments. Mr. Speaker, warehouse receipt system also improves post-harvest loss management of agricultural produce through the progressive improvement of national network of storage facilities and capacity. Like currently, the function National Cereals and Produce Board is doing. It is what now warehouse receipt system, when properly managed, will be able to take that role up very effectively and also efficiently. Mr. Speaker, warehouse receipt system also stabilizes agricultural commodity supply and therefore price fluctuations, as farmers do not have to sell in distress at the harvest time. This is very, very important because what happens currently is our farmers have no choice. As soon as they harvest of course, they do a bumper harvest at times, like we are told. In the case of maize, we are harvesting over 46 million bags. And when all the quantities hit the market, the price goes low. And what warehouse receipt system does is that the farmers can be able to take this commodity to warehouse for safekeeping so that they can wait for the price to stabilize, so that they are able to sell the commodities during the time when the prices improve, so that they can now begin to enjoy more profit during the drought time, like what we are going to experience in the next 2 to 3 months. So warehouse receipt system is actually the best thing that has happened. And finally, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, warehouse receipt system provide a link for structured trade in commodities through linkage with commodities exchange. Mr. Speaker, this is very critical. This is very important. It is what the market requires. It is also high time we manage also to restructure the National Cereals and Produce Board to be able to align itself to this bill. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to second. Thank you.
Very well. So I propose a question which is that pursuant to provisions of Article 113(2) of the Constitution and Standing Order 150, this House adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017, laid on the table of the House on May 8, 2019, and approves the mediated version of the Warehouse Receipt System, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017. So let's have the mover reply.
I beg to reply.
Having done that, of course, we also have an issue with the quorum now, so therefore we will put the question at a later opportunity. So, next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Wool House. Honorable members, we are now in the committee of the whole House. Just a few clauses, so this should move fast. Is on the National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019.
Clause 2.
Honorable members, Honorable members, I propose a question that clause 2 be part of the bill. The amendments on that. Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, clause 217 C, D, and E, Mr. Chairman, we are deleting C, D, and E, Mr. Chairman. And the reason is that these are other commissions, and we cannot, it was even an oversight even last time, because these are commission and they are earning salaries in both commissions. So we have found this should not even be part of this commission as commissioners.
Well, honorable members, I propose a question that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the chair. Yes, Majority Leader.
Chair, I really want to thank Honorable Commander for bringing this amendment, because there's no way Gender and Equality Commission, there's no way Kenya National Human Rights Commission can sit in another commission. It has never been there. It's not, it's even, I was even saying it's unconstitutional. So I really support that we retained the commission as it was before.
Very well, Minority Leader.
And I just want to concur, really, that I think that was an oversight, and we should not try to make other commissioners sit in another commission. The picture it is giving is that this other commission is a lower commission or inferior commission compared to the other commission. Thank you.
Well, that's a fairly straightforward amendment. Honorable members, I now put the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. We have another proposed amendment by Honorable Anthony Olwuch. Honorable Olwuch, I checking that yours is as similar as that of the chair, right? Just give him the mic.
Yes, Chair, it was similar, and I tried to raise an intervention so that I drop.
Okay.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, I wish to drop it on account of the one that has been moved by the chair.
Very
of the
well.
committee. Thank you.
Very well, honorable members. I now put the question that clause 2, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 3.
I propose a question that clause 3 be part of the bill. There are no amendments on that. I now put the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
I propose a question that clause 4 be part of the bill. Amendment by the chair.
Mr. Chairman, the consultation with the members here, even my friend Olwuch, we have decided as we increase the number of the chair from 5 years to 10 years. So I'm moving this amendment from 5 years to 10 years.
Very well.
The chair of the commission to have an experience of 10 years.
Very well. Honorable Olwuch, I must propose that first. Honorable members, I propose a question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the chair. Let's give Honorable Olwuch.
Chair, my proposed amendment to this section was to...
No, Honorable Olwuch, we pass prosecuting the one of the chair. I thought you were speaking to that. We'll come to yours. We'll come to yours. Honorable Majority Leader.
Okay, very well.
We'll come to you, Honorable Olwuch.
Honorable Olwuch needs to be very common at the Committee of the Whole House, like Professor Oduol and Honorable Nyikal. We will come to yours. I think I agree with the chair. The chairman of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission cannot have an experience of 5 years. 5 years means you leave university, 26 years, plus 5, you are 31. This is a commission that deals with cohesion. So we need to have somebody with a lot of experience, like the former speaker, like, a renowned judge, retired judge. So we are saying minimum 10 years, so we can even go to 20 years. So I really support the chair. That is not an ordinary commission. It is somebody that we need who is very sober, who has experience, and I support the chair.
Yes, Honorable Mirema, we can have 1 minute, then we
Yeah, just 1 minute. In fact, I addressed my eyebrow because I thought it was an extension of his term of service. But if his experience for the chair, 10 years, is very, very good, because he needs to be a very mature person and experienced. Thank you. I support.
Honorable Dua.
Thank you, Chair. Also to support, as I support Chair, to indicate that as a committee, part of our concern was that we wanted to include the youth who were competent, and we were seeking to balance. I think we are in agreement that 5 is a little low and 10 would really still do justice, and so I support. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Honorable members, let's move on that. I now
we don't normally members of parliament and MCA, they feel as if anytime that the job are given, we are talking about their names, we want to change that and put state officers, because so that it doesn't look as if it's a member of parliament or an MCA that should not be included.
What is your point of order, Honorable Minority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have a problem with the amendment being proposed by the chair. Actually, in my contribution, I think I alluded to such amendment, but I am worried the way the chair is moving the amendments. I think this is a house of procedure. I expect the chair first to read that clause 4 of the bill be amended in the proposed section 18.2 by deleting paragraph A and substituting therefore the following new paragraph. A is a state officer. Then now he goes ahead to explain. But I find the chair, or he would say clearly that as proposed in the bill, if it is a long one, then he goes ahead. But the chair is starting by explaining to us before. I think too much experience is becoming a problem.
Honorable Minority Leader, are you saying too much experience is becoming a problem? It is not. But that's a fair point by Honorable Minority Leader. I think the best what you can do, you may not read the entire text, but just say as per the order paper, and then you give the rationale. But had you done? Do you want to? You're done. Very well. Please note, honorable members, he had proposed an amendment on 18.2. So I'll propose a question that clause 18.2 be amended as proposed by the chair. Majority Leader.
Chair, I really want to thank the chair, because this story of putting a member of parliament everywhere is becoming a problem in this country. Yeah. What's so special about a member of parliament? We are state officers, so it should be written state officers. Even those who are not members of parliament cannot be members of this commission. Secondly, in fact, we need to look at even like the Public Service Commission Act that says for you to become a commissioner of the Public Service Commission, you must have parliament 10 years ago. Who says once you lose an election, you become useless? You know, this is just stigmatizing members of parliament, even when they even voluntarily even leave politics. So I think we need to replace everywhere is written member of parliament, we replace it with a state officer, so that it carries everybody who is a state officer. And that's why we're having a problem with our house allowance. Yeah. Other state officers are being given house allowance. Somebody is not giving us a good reason why we, the state officers, are being discriminated. And the Speaker, we need to tell the world that mortgage is not part of salary. Mortgage, 60%, only 60% of members of parliament have taken mortgage. What about the 40%? Yeah, so it's an issue we need to discuss. So thank you very much. Please, everywhere we see member of parliament, we replace with a state officer.
Yes, Honorable Member, 1 minute. Maybe Majority Leader, the next miscellaneous amendments should speak to what you are actually saying. Honorable Member.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Chair of the committee, because the issue of Member of Parliament of MCA, like has been very well stated by the leader, is a stigma. And this change is a general one for everybody. And I really have loved the way the leader has talked. In fact, leader, in future, you also remember not to be stigmatizing trade unionists so that they also operate in space. And Chair, thank you for this amendment. I hope the key with which the leader has taken will also proceed to members of the trade union. Don't stigmatize us. We must also be free to operate. Thank you. Very good amendment.
Yes, finally, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, although I wanted to raise something else, but I've just realized that we have not concluded this particular amendment. Mr. Speaker, I want to also agree that really this idea of stigmatizing, I'm the one who raised it yesterday. And Mr. Speaker, we've started seeing some of our friends in the civil society want to go to court that if you are a former member of parliament, you should not even sit in boards of paracetamol. Mr. Speaker, I wonder what if once you leave, and the way I look at you, Mr. Speaker, you are still, Mr. Chairman, you are still a very young man comparatively, compared to myself. And you never know when you can leave parliament. You know, politics is so interesting. And I'm wondering what, and with this brain that I see in you, I wonder what you will be doing if even being a chair of a board, you cannot. So, Mr. Chairman, I think it is high time that Parliament, as members of Parliament, we resist some of this stigmatization. But, Mr. Chairman, just allow me to raise this issue because I've stood, even as you put this to question. The amendment by Anthony Olwoch were actually two. And one has been cured by the amendment by the chair. I'm wondering...
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, thanks.
Honorable members, I now put the question that clause 18.2 be amended as proposed by the honorable members, I propose the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? There is have it. Honorable Keteo, you can take the water, no problem. Honorable Olwoch, you have an amendment, but clearly your amendment A, clause 4, BA, has been dispensed with by the fact of Honorable Chair, the one of Honorable Chair being carried. But you had a B. Please proceed.
Yes, Honorable Chair, and I'd consulted with the Chair, Honorable Commander, and so I dropped my amendment in respect of the first part. In respect of the second part, Chair, looking at, among other areas, or what the person qualified to be chair should be looking at, the race, ethnicity, human relation, public affairs, I wanted to have the inclusion of the word law, general knowledge or expertise in the area of law to be included as one of those areas a person who will be the chairperson of this commission should be considered. And so as per the order paper, I wish to move an amendment to include the word law.
Honorable members, I propose a question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the mover. Yes, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Commander.
Mr. Chairman, I'm opposing this amendment for one simple reason, Mr. Chairman. We are going to lock out so many potential people. And you know, the people who normally deal with cohesion and peace, necessarily they are not even lawyers. And we have so many lawyers also employed by the national cohesion. And I don't think we need to put any category of any group that should to be the chair. So I oppose the amendment.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Kisang.
Honorable Chair, I also arise to oppose the amendment by Ezekiel, a member of my committee, because, Honorable Chair, if you look at the current constitution, the 2010 constitution, the lawyers have given themselves a lot of work in almost all the commissions. So this is also another opportunity for another lawyer trying to create work for themselves. So basically, as a chair, you can be a chair within a profession. You don't have to have knowledge in law because you have expertise within the institution who should be able to guide the chair.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I realize in the 10th Parliament, again, just the same way we mishandled members of Parliament and stereotyped, we also the lawyers so much. In fact, I think we gave too much space for lawyers. If you look at the legislations that we passed that time, the positions that we created, even in other commissions or other bodies where other professions are the one, you will find a professional from that profession and a lawyer. Everywhere lawyers were put. And so Anthony Oluoch wants to still perpetuate this bad habit that we developed in 10th Parliament. And so we reject. In fact, I was, Mr. Speaker, not on record, but informally telling him in Kejaluo that we have refused. This one cannot happen, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I oppose.
Let's have just two other members, Lily, so that... where's your card in? No, it's not possible not to sign. It is, I'm not sure you have the card because we want to get the exact names correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, just speak, but please, next time you need to have the card. I can't see it here.
Okay, I thank you, Chair. I'm on my feet to oppose this amendment by my very dear friend, Honorable Anthony Oluoch. It is true that lawyers have a reputation. It is true that some of them do a better job at scrutinizing and interrogating matters. But on this specific matter, touching on national cohesion, there is absolutely no reason why we must incorporate lawyers in this. Just as my senior, Honorable Mbadi, has said, some of the lawyers sitting in various commissions or committees have really disappointed this nation. And if we are going to use and take that same trajectory on such an important commission such as this, then we are going to lose our way. And hence we must universally object to this kind of move. Finally, Chair, not all Kenyans can be lawyers. You know, we have several cadres, we have people of various disciplines, and they have done a tremendous job in their various responsibilities. And therefore, we must hence, widen the scope of our understanding of national cohesion. We must incorporate every Kenyan. And once we have put a requirement of a university degree from a recognized institution, that should just be enough. Otherwise, all those who perhaps went through the university had the potential to be lawyers. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Finally, let's have, you still don't have a card, Honorable Member. Are you sure it's not working? Yes. 1 minute, please, so that we make progress.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I want to rise and oppose the amendments my colleague is trying to do here. Let me say that I have immense respect to lawyers as professionals, but Mr. Chair, this move will be discriminatory if we are told we are going to say lawyers have to be involved in this. Anybody who is competent and who is God-fearing actually can do this job, provided he has a degree.
Okay.
Chair, put the question, we move ahead.
Okay, very well. Honorable Dual, please have a minute. I didn't want to put you off.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I thank you because I feel I'm also bringing the voice of the other agenda as we speak, so that is good. And Chair, I stand to strongly oppose this as a member of the committee, that as we look at the mandate of the committee and what the committee needs to do, I'd like to advise the Honorable Anthony Oluoch to see that the kind of knowledge and experience that we need would really be of public relations, of human relations, peace and security, how to get people to cohere, and that really is not the purview and mandate of the lawyers. So I oppose. Thank you, Chair.
I'll put the question now. Honorable members, and I'll put the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the mover. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. I now put the question that clause 4, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 5.
I propose a question that clause 5 be part of the bill. There is no amendment on that. I now put the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 6.
I propose a question that clause 6 be part of the bill. Now, there were some amendments by Honorable Olwoch and Honorable Chair. Technically, though, they have been dispensed with, dealing with, especially having dealt with clause 2, right?
The question.
In fact, it's not dropping. They were dropped technically by passage of clause 2. Therefore, members, I now put the question that clause 6 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? All the members? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose a question that the title be part of the bill. I put the question that the title be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
Honorable members, I propose a question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we are done with that law. Mover. Am I going?
Honorable Chair, I beg to move that the committee report to the House its consideration of National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019, and it is approval thereof with amendment.
Honorable members, I put the question that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Shall we have the chairperson?
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover. Honorable Minor Commander.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019. I also request Honorable Jacqueline Odwall to second this motion.
Honorable Odwall.
Thank you, Speaker. I second.
Honorable members, I propose the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the National Cohesion and Integration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2019. Honorable members, we will ped putting the question to a subsequent time. Next order.
Order number 12, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019, second reading.
Reader.
It has some very, very important minor amendments to government. and it was published on the 29th of March 2019 and read a first time on 3rd of April 2019. The bill is in keeping with the practice of making various amendments which do not merit the publication of a separate bill and consolidating them into one. And Mr. Speaker, because we are going on recess, the House Business Committee has decided that we do a second reading today, and then when we come back on the 4th of June, we do the Committee of the Whole House. And Mr. Speaker, I like to say it on the onset that amendments relating to the section on Microfinance Act, I have withdrawn after receiving a letter from the Governor of Central Bank saying that he's doing a consultation and he will bring those amendments in a more substantive way during the finance bill of this year. So the amendments to Microfinance Act of 2006, number 19 of 2006, will not be considered in this statute law. The other amendments, Mr. Speaker, are mainly on 4 key committees. The Committee on National Security, that is dealing with the one on districts and provinces, and the one on Alcohol, Drinks and Control Act. Then the Committee on Sports will deal with the one on tourism, and I'm sure the chairman is on his way to give the House his views. The one on Public Finance Management Act, and on VAT, is being dealt with the Finance Committee. Honorable Limo is here. And then this bill was referred to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and Honorable Chair is here. And the ones on alcohol and districts is being represented by Honorable Makali Mulu, a member of that committee, so that they give the input of the various committees. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the bill proposes on the districts and provinces, the bill proposes to amend the Districts and Provinces Act in order to empower the Cabinet Secretary to make regulations to give effect to the provisions of the Act and to clear some of the ambiguity currently existing in this Act. And why we are bringing this thing is that we have a number of areas in our country where we have a dispute with even our neighbors, the Migingo, the South Sudan, the Somalia. So currently, as the Act states, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of this don't have powers. So we want to give them powers so that they can prepare even Cabinet memorandum and effect it. So we want to give that and deal with those regional disputes that we face as a country. The next one, because microfinance will not deal with it, the next one is the one on the Merchant and Shipping Act. And in fact, why we have said that we do the third reading on the 4th of June is because this is a matter that the Transport Committee is handling now. Is handling, and Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, you know, Honorable Chair, Honorable Commander, we have finished his business. Now we started a Kamkunji. You know, now your business is over. Now we are doing ours. So, yes, thank you, sir. And you know, he's my good neighbor. So the one on the merchant is, the chair is doing stakeholder participation. He's gone to Mombasa, and he asked through the speaker that he's given more time, and that's why we want him. But this bill, this section, seeks to amend the Act to exempt government entities or enterprises from the provision of this Act in furtherance of the public interest or government policy. And the main thing here is that there's an institution called Kenya Shipping Line. And in this Act, it says it cannot do, and it's all shipping lines, cannot do matters to do with handling and operations of the Port of Mombasa. Now, we are doing this amendment subject to the public participation so that we allow, like other countries that have seaports, to allow our own shipping line to participate in the operations and the administration of some of the facilities within the Port of Mombasa, so that instead of leasing it to other international shipping lines, for example, like Maersk and all that. We are amending it so that Kenya shipping line alone can be allowed to do any operational business within any of the berths in the port of Mombasa. So the current act does not allow any shipping line, either local or international, to engage in any business of operational nature within the port of Mombasa. On alcoholic drinks, the bill seeks to align the definition of the term magistrate with the one contained in the Magistrates Court Act to provide for more clarity on the matter. And I'm sure Honorable Makali will deal with that matter. On tourism, the bill seeks to amend the act to include universities, among other institutions, offering tourism-related courses. You know, with the existence of Kenya Utalii College, other universities cannot offer courses, either public or private. So now this amendment is opening up that other universities can do those courses, whether they're private or public. On the Public Finance Management Act, it is very, very important. This amendment is from the Parliamentary Service Commission. The bill seeks to amend the act to empower the Parliamentary Service Commission to designate by resolution additional accounting officers in the Parliamentary Service Commission. In addition to the 2 clerks, you remember when we came in 2013, the only accounting clerk was the clerk of the Senate, who was a secretary to the commission. Then we felt that every decision of the National Assembly, the clerk of the National Assembly had to work for approval to the clerk of the Senate. So in 2013 PFM Act, we created the clerk of the Senate, the clerk of the National Assembly, Honorable Sialai, to be an accounting officer dealing with the matter of the National Assembly. Now, what the Commission now is asking is that the amendment seeks to actualize the resolution made by the Commission at its 256 meeting held on the 14th of February 2019 and appoint another accounting officer for what we call joint services. There are joint services between the 2 houses, and there's a Director General in charge of joint services. But this Director General, in terms of the law, has no powers. He cannot sign a check, he cannot incur anything. So and this is part of making Parliament, perform better. So in their 256 meeting of the Parliamentary Service Commission held on the 14th of February, they have asked the Director General of the Joint Services to be also an accounting officer and take care of his votes. So that is on the PFM Act, and I'm sure the Parliamentary Service Commission appeared before the Finance Committee, and you need to help me.
What is it, Majority Leader? What help do you need from me?
Now, you know, Honorable Commander now is doing
Honorable Commander. You know, earlier on you pledged to have your consultation down, but you keep increasing. Now, please.
It is a lady.
That is the Majority Leader. Please,
it is
consult, but at a lower tone.
You know, he's a leader of a very serious movement, so he's looking for members. He's recruiting. But he should not recruit in the House. He should recruit at the lobby. So, Mr. Speaker, the other one which we have withdrawn, and I'm sure the chair of legal will speak to that. Proposed amendments to Kenya School of Law, I think, will be withdrawn. The chair will propose amendments to the Kenya Legal Education Act. The Committee on Legal had their reservations, so we will deal with it. Then I go to the proposed amendments to the Prevention of Terrorism Act 2013, number 32. In this one, the bill seeks to amend the act to clear some ambiguities currently existing in the Terrorism Act that we passed in 2013 on the membership of the National Counterterrorism Center. As additional members of the center, it also seeks to provide for the term of office of the threat to our national security. The Counterterrorism Center membership is being expanded, the term of office is being defined, and it also provides them with additional responsibility to that center. So this is just to make sure that the center is aligned to international best practice where other centers have been. On value added tax, Mr. Speaker, number 35 of 2013, I'm sure members who are with us in the leadership retreat, when the lady from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers provided, she talked about exactly what is in this bill. The bill seeks to amend the act to provide for a taxpayer to apply any withheld tax to his credit to offset any tax liability. So there's a lot of withholding of VAT remissions by government. So this aspect is just trying to make sure that there's efficiency in dealing with that matter. On the proposed amendment to the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act, the bill seeks to amend the act to remove ambiguities currently existing. So there are small issues, minor issues that on that act, which the Committee on Environment has proposed. Important amendment to government is this one. In fact, it's pegged on the World Bank. So the World Bank is really waiting, and the National Treasury and the Ministry of East Africa and Ministry of Trade and Industry, they're waiting for this. You remember we passed the Companies Act in 2015, number 17 of 2015. So this bill seeks to amend the act to require companies to keep a register of beneficial owners and to provide for particulars to be included in the register, so that we know who are the owners of a company and who are the beneficiaries in case of anything. And that must be kept in the register. Secondly, on the Companies Act, the bill further seeks to provide for the convening of annual general meeting by registered companies and for the manner in which directors of a company may slot shares in a company or convert shares of a company into security. So how do you allot shares? How do you convert shares of a company into security is provided for in any registered companies. This section also further seeks to amend the act to reduce the percentage of shares which may be offered for sale from 90 to 50%. On the proposed amendment to insolvency, and I'm sure that was also dealt by the Legal Affairs Committee, this was a bill that we passed in 2015. It seeks to amend the act by specifying matters as court may take into consideration in granting an approval for the lifting of a moratorium. How do you lift a moratorium? What does the court say? So that small amendment has been done. And finally, Mr. Speaker, is the one on the Court of Appeal Organization and Administration Act of 2015. So this bill seeks to amend the act to provide for the period during which the Court of Appeal will be proceeding on leave, on vacation. It's not that it must be in law, that in the year, in the act, the Court of Appeal Organization and Administration Act, which we passed in 2015, it must state when is the vacation for judges in the Court of Appeal. It's not that, it's not at the discretion. Just the way we have a calendar ourselves. It's not the discretion of the president of the Court of Appeal or on the Chief Justice or on JSC. It must state when are you going on vacation so that the public can know, the lawyers can know, litigants can know. And I think from my submission, Mr. Speaker, allow me to conclude by saying that the amendments being proposed in this bill are critical, as some of them seek to create clarity in law. The law is always speaking, and where there is ambiguity, this House, Mr. Speaker, has a responsibility. It's only this House and the Senate has the responsibility of aligning it to its right form. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I urge members to read the comprehensive report of the various departmental committee on this clause committed to them in order to fully appreciate and enrich the debate. And I further really want to thank Honorable Makali Muli on behalf of the Security Committee, Chair Limo for Finance, Chair Cheptumo, Chair Munyaka on behalf of Sports on the element of tourism. And I think the only person I'm missing is the Chair for Environment, Honorable Kareke, but his is not a major one. And then the one The one on microfinance, we will not deal with it based on the letter we received from the central bank committing himself that he will do that amendment in the finance bill of 2019. With those many remarks, I beg to move and ask the person who compiled the report of all this committee, the chair of Legal Affairs Committee, to second.
Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the majority leader has happily moved this bill or the motion. And Mr. Speaker, mine is just to second and be able to make very few comments on this. Mr. Speaker, as rightly said by the majority leader, the bill seeks to make various wide-ranging amendments to various statutes and the various departmental committees, reviewing the bills and statutes, therefore. And I just want to mention, Mr. Speaker, that we had the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which had 6 statutes. The Administration and National Security, 3, Finance and National Planning, 3, Sports, Culture and Tourism, 1, 5, Transport, Public Works and Housing, 1 statute, Environment and Natural Resources had actually 1. So, Mr. Speaker, the Legal Affairs Committee had the highest. We had 7 statutes with amendments. And that is why we became the lead committee, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we were able to receive reports from the various committees, and were able to table a report combining reports of those 6 committees. And Mr. Speaker, therefore, I will just want to mention one item, that in our Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs, when we have considered the 7 statutes to be amended, some of them, Mr. Speaker, we found to be very justifiable, necessary to undertake those amendments, because they are minor. They don't need very serious consideration or rather comprehensive review, and we allowed those. But there are those, Mr. Speaker, that we found it was not very necessary for us to allow at a level of miscellaneous. For example, Mr. Speaker, there was a proposal to amend the Kenya School of Law and the Legal Education Act. And the essence of that amendment, Mr. Speaker, was to liberalize the training of advocates. Currently, Mr. Speaker, it is the Kenya School of Law which has that mandate. There's a proposal in this miscellaneous amendment that that particular role should be liberalized so that the Council of Legal Education can be able to allow other institutions, other universities to train lawyers. Mr. Speaker, I wanted the country to know that currently we have a very serious problem in the Kenya School of Law. Out of 1,000 or 2,000 students, Mr. Speaker, we have about 70 or 80% failing those exams. And Mr. Speaker, imagine a situation where we have invested in our young people. They have gone through the universities. They are now waiting to do the diploma for Kenya School of Law for them to qualify as advocates. And Mr. Speaker, there is a mass failure. And this, Mr. Speaker, is an issue that came before our committee much earlier, and we raised the issue, and there is already a task force which is being headed by the Attorney General office. So that, Mr. Speaker, we look at the entire issue of training of lawyers and begin to go to the root cause of why this mass failure. Is it that the admission of our lawyers, the standards have been, reduced? What is the cause? Because a student who has gone through university, he has done very well, or she has done very well, and she has been able to achieve a good grade in Form 4, there is no reason, Mr. Speaker, and university, there's no reason for that student not to go through in Kenya School of Law. During our time, Mr. Speaker, that's about 25 years ago, you could have 1 or 2 students. Even during your time, I believe, you could not have this kind of mass failure. So what is the cause of it? And so, Mr. Speaker, we didn't want to undertake this kind of an amendment at this point because we wanted to receive the comprehensive task force report, see the kind of amendments you are introducing, so that we undertake a reform in the entire legal profession. So that if you were to consider liberalizing that process of training lawyers to other institutions, then we should be able to have the justification of doing so. And so, Mr. Speaker, we felt that this should not be allowed because we need a very wide consultation, public participation, and all the stakeholders in this sector. And Mr. Speaker, we are really concerned about this issue, and we are going to deal with that issue, especially with the report, which I'm told now is ready, and we'll be able to consider shortly. Mr. Speaker, and as said by the majority leader here, the Court of Appeal wanted also to change their program or their timetable for their recess, during Easter recess, during the August recess, and during the Christmas holidays. Mr. Speaker, we also noted that they were adding a lot of days. The change or variation of their timetable is such that now they were adding themselves another close to 30 days. So that, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of backlog cases in this country. And we don't want a situation where we allow the Court of Appeal to have a lot of days, apart from their leave days, apart from those other days during those holidays. So we want to restrict, and Mr. Speaker will be actually proposing a rejection to that proposal, so that then the Court of Appeal, the High Court should be able to harmonize their vacation dates and timetable, so that we don't really spend a lot of time when we have our Kenyan people, their cases remaining outstanding for very, very long. Mr. Speaker, finally, because I really just want to add to what the majority leader said, is the issue about the amendment to the Companies Act. There's a wide range of proposals to amend that particular law, and Mr. Speaker, we considered, we allowed most of them, because when you talk of allotting shares, one of the proposed amendments is that it is either the articles, memorandum and article of association, which allows the company to allot shares, or the directors to make that resolution. And so, Mr. Speaker, we felt it was good to give powers to the company, because if you want to allot shares, and you give that power to the directors alone, without the resolution of the majority of the shareholders, you can easily prejudice some of those shareholders in that company. So we want to allow the owners of that company to be briefed and be able to pass a resolution and be able to allot shares to whoever they want to allot shares to. And Mr. Speaker, let me say that the rest of the proposed amendments, which we have allowed and the ones we did not allow, are very clear in our report. And indeed, also for the other committees, the report is in table office. I would like to request all of us, members of this House, Mr. Speaker, so that as we do the second reading of this bill, and as we go to the third reading, we should be able to have those reports and relate to the respective statutes, look them through, so that we have very informed debate as we proceed in the second reading and the third reading when we come back from recess. And so, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that we should never use these miscellaneous amendments to sneak in amendments which has material consequences, especially to certain laws. And so we should be able to use the miscellaneous to just go for minor amendments that can be able to align our laws within the changing times. And so, Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I beg to second and request members to please secure copies of these reports in table office, so that we have a very informed debate in the House as we go to the second reading and the third reading. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I second.
Honorable Mokami, just freeze where you are. Don't move. Honorable members, I propose a question that the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019 be now read a second time. Honorable members, we shall on the onset give priority to the chairs of the various committees that been whose laws under their docket have been referred to in the bill. Honorable Marwa, don't say not really. It will be important to hear those chairs because having engaged elaborately on their sections, it will be important and gives guidance sort of to the other members. Shall we start with the Honorable Dr. Makari Mulu? Am I under the impression that you actually representing the Administration and National Security Committee?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you are right. I'm standing in for my chairman on the Committee of Administration and Internal Security, Honorable Koinange, who has requested me to come in and just stand in for him because he's held up somewhere. And I'm a member of that committee. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at these miscellaneous amendments, the Committee on Administration and Internal Security has 3 areas which we considered. And the first one is the Districts and the Provinces Act of 1992. The second one, Honorable Speaker, is the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act 2010. And the third one, which falls under our committee, is the Prevention of Terrorism Act. And the committee has taken time to consider these amendments. We have also invited comments from stakeholders. In some areas, as a committee, we got comments specific to these acts. In some areas, we didn't have any issues, so no comments were presented to the committee. And on the first act, which is the Districts and Provinces Act of 1992, the proposed amendments, Mr. Honorable Speaker, are actually not major, and I think they fit well into this bill. The only thing we are doing here, Mr. Speaker, is we are adding a new section after Section 5, where we are allowing the Cabinet Secretary of the Interior Ministry to prepare regulations. And we all know as legislators that regulations are important to operationalize our laws. And so what the Cabinet Secretary will be expected to do is just to prepare regulations so that we have a smooth operationalization of the Act. And as a committee, we didn't have an issue with this. And I want to urge honorable members to support us so that we allow the Cabinet Secretary to come up with the regulations which will be approved by the Committee on Delegated Legislation. On the second act, that is the Alcoholic Drinks Act, Honorable Speaker, we got submissions from 2 stakeholders. No, from 1 stakeholder. And the focus on this amendment is actually defining clearly, so making clarification or making reference to definition of a magistrate, so that that definition of a magistrate in the Act has the same meaning as the Magistrates Act, Court Act 2015, so that we don't have a difference the way we define the word magistrate. And the submission which came from the stakeholder, they were saying by this kind of definition, what will happen is when it comes to issues of alcoholic drinks, Honorable Speaker, then it will restrict magistrates who can handle this kind of cases to only magistrates who are above what they call the resident magistrate or the senior level magistrates. And as a committee, we took time to debate on this. And our agreement was that alcoholic drink issues need to be handled by magistrates who have a bit of experience. So we are in agreement with the amendment, even though initially, so we are in agreement, and we will be agreeing to that when it comes to that reading. The third act, Honorable Speaker, is the Act on the Prevention of Terrorism Act 2012. And what this is doing, because it has actually 3 components. And the first component is where it is bringing, the amendment is now trying to bring in who are going to be sitting in the board of that center. so that we indicate clearly who will be sitting there. And what we have done as a committee, we have discussed, Honorable Speaker, and we have realized that despite the listing, we are saying this kind of sender, counterterrorism sender, we might not be exhaustive in terms of listing who will be sitting in that board. And what we are saying is, other than listing everybody, we want to list the main ones, and then we have a paragraph which says anybody else who might be relevant might be invited on the basis of the particular issue being discussed. But we have noted that they have left out a new outfit in this country, which is quite important, what we are calling the Coast Guards, which has just been kind of established. And these Coast Guards are going to take care of our, what we call the territorial waters, more so the area between our land and the ocean, which is not taken care of by the military, the Navy. So we are thinking that one, because it's key in terms of ensuring we also sort out issues on terrorism, we need to specify that one, because that's part of their work. But then we are removing others, like Kenya Wildlife Services. We are removing. So what we'll do is we'll have a statement which, on needy basis, then other institutions can be invited when there is an issue to be discussed. So we'll be making an amendment on that one as a committee, so that we make it clearer and open more room for other specialized bodies to be invited. The other bit, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the 4C. And this 4C has generated a lot of interest from the stakeholders. And I want to single out, Honorable Speaker, what we call the cost-based non-governmental organizations who are dealing with human rights issues. And the argument has been, Honorable Speaker, that now what is being required here is, in addition to them being registered by the NGO, the body which registers NGOs, there's a requirement that now they need to be also kind of approved by this counterterrorism center. And the argument is they're saying that is going to cause a lot of bureaucracy, and it's going to be almost impossible to register such bodies. So the argument was they should only register the NGO, and then based on that, they be reported to this other one. But looking keenly at this amendment, Honorable Speaker, what we have realized is actually there is no requirement for official registration. What we are saying is this sender will need to be aware of all the non-government organizations who are involved on counterterrorism activities. And what the sender will be requiring is, regularly, they might require, the word used is, they may be requested to report on their activities. And I think to me this makes a lot of sense, because we are saying nobody will vet them. The only thing is, once you are registered as a body which is doing something on counterterrorism issues, then what will happen, Honorable Speaker, you'll be required also to work closely with this sender for purposes of harmonizing the activities and the purposes of ensuring that information is shared across board. In that case, then we'll make sure that we have no issues when it comes to some, because we could have some gaps where, and the terrorists want to take advantage of those gaps. So this will avoid issue of gaps coming up and people taking advantage. So as a committee, what we have agreed is that even though the stakeholders have expressed some reservations with this amendment, as a committee we have said it's a good amendment and it's going to help the war against terrorism. So what we have agreed, Honorable Speaker, as a committee, is that we will be supporting this position, but we will be very specific that the requirement will be for reporting. They will be required to report. Just they may report when the need arises, that the sender can easily write to an NGO and say to them, please give us a report on this matter, so that the information is shared. But at the same time, you know, Honorable Speaker, there's the new law we passed. There's another law which was passed, I think, 2012. The public, it's called Public Benefit Organizations, which has never been operationalized. And what it means is that law has very many good things which can support this area. And we are thinking, Honorable Speaker, members should take up that challenge, and then we come up with an amendment so that we make that law operational. Otherwise, it's going to be also supporting this area. That law is important. It's more, I think, in terms of the way it is structured, it's better than the current act, and it's going to help this area in terms of NGOs working closely with the government to make sure that we have a common goal and we achieve better results for Kenyans. So those are the areas, Honorable Speaker, where the committee considered, and I want to assure the House that when it comes to that reading, the committee will be presenting those amendments during that reading so that we have we improve these areas. But generally, Those are the issues, Honorable Speaker. I don't have much to say, but I've looked at other acts, Honorable Speaker, more so the Public Finance Management Act. I would also have wanted to contribute, but for now, since I'm just standing in for the chair, I want to stop there so that I don't go beyond what the instructions I have from my chair. With those comments, I want to support and ask honorable members, request them so that we support these amendments to improve the kind of the existing laws. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Shall we have Honorable Limo, who is the chair of Finance and National Planning?
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this chance. Mr. Speaker, I'll start by saying that this bill, as soon as it was tabled in the House and it was advertised for the public to know that this bill is in the process, our committee was tasked to tackle three areas, which is the microfinance, which the majority leader has already spoken about it, that the central bank has wrote to say that they wanted more time to come up with a more comprehensive amendment to Microfinance Act. The next one was PFM amendment, which was basically to amend section 2(1) on which was touching on accounting officers in Parliamentary Service Commission, which basically touches on Parliament. And the third one was on VAT, which is the amendment to section 17C, which is on withholding tax, which was introduced for the purpose of intelligence or picking the payment of taxes by the taxpayers, especially on VAT, which has become a sort of a problem to the taxpayers, because some of the taxpayers have been continuously accumulating credits, which the law does not specify how they will get a refund or an offset. So, Mr. Speaker, as soon as those particular sections were referred to us and they were advertised, we received some memorandums.
Order, Honorable Chair. What is out of order, Honorable Malwa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with due respect to Honorable Limo, who is an expert on matters of finance, he's the chair of the Committee on Finance. So when it comes to this Public Finance Management Act, I expect him to give a justification. I've listened carefully.
Honorable Malwa, what is out of order?
The order is, the out of order is,
yes,
he needs to give the justification. He has only mentioned that in the BFM Act just touching on Parliament, County and Parliament. He has not given the justification of what is happening here.
Order, Malwa, he hasn't finished.
No,
I think
he has already moved to the VAT. VAT has done very well. But when it comes to the PFM, he has not given the specifics on this particular.
Order on Malwa.
Yeah.
That is not a point of order, but it's a good guidance to Honorable Chair. You used another route to get further information from Honorable Limo. Honorable Limo, maybe that's what Honorable Malwa guides you a bit for his benefit and other members. But anyway, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In due respect, I respect Honorable Malwa, but I think he might have walked in, or he came to pick my contribution in the middle, because I have planned my work well. So be assured that we had a presentation from the following: the Petroleum Institute of East Africa, who are accompanied by Ernst & Young, and they came to present on the value-added tax amendment, and followed by the GC Retail Limited, which is actually in full, it is called Garden City Retail Limited, which is the owners of the Garden City Mall. They also came to present on the value-added tax. The Parliamentary Service Commission, the commissioners, accompanied by senior officers from Parliament also came to present on the PFM Management Act, which is the amendment to Section 2.1. Also, we had a group of power generators who came to present on the value-added tax. The others are as follows. The Agrochemicals Association of Kenya and PwC came also to present on the value-added tax. We also had a presentation from KPMG on value-added tax, and also a law firm by the name Colson Honey, LLP. We also had ISPAC. ISPAC came to present on VAT as well as the PFM Management Act. Mr. Speaker, we had a very big team also, which came under the umbrella of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, which was actually a very big team, which was comprising of manufacturers and various other key players in the market who came to present on the VAT. Together with the people who came also is the Kenya Revenue Authority. Kenya Revenue Authority came on value-added tax. And then finally, we had a presentation from Amolo and Kibanya advocates who presented on the PFM Act amendment. And then finally, we had a closing meeting with the National Treasury. So, Mr. Speaker, all these stakeholders came before us, and they actually showed how stakeholder consultation is very important in line with the Constitution, which requires public participation during the lawmaking. Mr. Speaker, I now come to the main amendment which was being carried. Mr. Speaker, I will start straight away from the PFM. On the PFM, the amendment seeks to amend Section 2.1 of PFM Act 2012 to introduce or to redefine what accounting officer means in terms of, or in reference to Parliamentary Service Commission. You know, currently, when the Constitution was changed in 2010, it introduced bicameral Parliament, which involves, we have Senate and we have National Assembly. And currently, we have two accounting officers in Parliament, which is the clerk, National Assembly, for matters relating to National Assembly. Then we have the clerk of the Senate, who is accounting officer on matters touching on the Senate, as well as the Parliamentary Service Commission. What has been seen here is that there is a room in between, which is referred to as joint services or common areas, which includes catering, health services, which in many instances, the Parliamentary Service Commission, during their presentation, said that it was difficult to manage those joint services, because if they had to manage efficiently, they required somebody who is quite responsible, who is given the responsibility and authority to manage those particular areas, and therefore that particular person will concentrate on those areas, and their key areas which offer services to the members. So in their own opinion, they presented that they require some power to introduce a third or even fourth accounting officer to manage those areas. There is also another important body, which many members might not know. There is a training center. I think it's called CPST. Yeah? Yeah? Yes. Which is in charge of capacity building for members of parliament, together with cutting across even up to the county government. They offer capacity building to county governments, especially county assemblies. And therefore, they still operate under the same situation where no one is squarely responsible, but it is supposed to be more efficient, and it should be given some, the Parliamentary Service Commission felt that they should be given some leeway to give them more authority and responsibility. And therefore, they were of the opinion that we support the amendment so that they can run their work efficiently. Mr. Speaker, on the amendment on VAT, let me explain this, that since 2017, the government introduced, the National Treasury and KRA, of course, introduced what is called withholding tax, that when you do some work which attracts VAT at 16%, when you are getting payment, the person who is paying you is required to withhold the 6% and only pay the 10%. That 6% is withheld and forwarded directly to KRA. The purpose of that was for intelligence purposes, so that the tax collector will detect that so-and-so has offered service which attracted VAT. And therefore, if you fail to remit the balance, which is 10%, they will remind you that now you had offered service to so-and-so. He has already remitted the 6% to us. How come you have not remitted 10%? So what happened now? Over time, the 6% has caused some credit to some taxpayers, which they are not able to offset, because when you know a VAT operates in a way that it has the way VAT operates in when you buy materials, you buy with VAT, which is called input tax. When you produce, so this amendment seeks to address that and allow the taxpayers to seek an offset as long as the commissioner is satisfied that such excess arises from making zero-rated supplies. And if also the commissioner is satisfied that credit arises from appointed withholding tax agents, that means the commissioner still plays a key role. So this amendment, that is the gist of this amendment, and it was supported by almost all the stakeholders who appeared before us. And in fact, this country, you know, is one of the countries which we consider to be, we heavily depend on taxation. But as much as the taxpayers are willing to pay, it is our responsibility to make the tax environment efficient, so that it doesn't cause pain more than the pain you get by paying tax. So if indeed this amendment goes through, it makes our tax environment more friendly, and it makes the country more friendlier to investors, and that will be in line with the government agenda of ensuring that the ease of doing business is actually enhanced. Mr. Speaker, on the microfinance, though it has already been moved out, the intention was to introduce.
No, Honorable Limo,
Yes.
that is no longer in the act, is it?
Okay.
Yeah, so let's.
Yeah, it has been
let's-
withdrawn. So,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I stand guided. I will not address that. So, Mr. Speaker, I think basically those were the main areas of the amendment on the PFM and the VAT. And therefore, members, as you contribute, I hope my contribution has helped you a little bit, at least to understand the gist of the amendment. Mr. Speaker, I end by saying that I stand to support, and I urge the members here to support the amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Shall we now have Honorable Munyaka Kyoko, who is also the chair of Sports, Culture and Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Basically, our committee was only supposed to deal with the two proposed amendments to the Tourism Act 2011, number 28 of 2011. And basically, as the leader of majority indicated, it's just to cure some ambiguities which are existing in the act. Since in the definition, there is no word university. And since we know that we have many universities which offer trainings on tourism hospitality programs, there was need to include in the definition university, what university means, so that it can be addressed in a further amendment on section 68F, where another ambiguity actually existed, where training institutions are mentioned without referring to a university. So basically, it is a matter of definition, and we met two stakeholders who gave their opinion. The first stakeholder was the Tourism Professional Association, who requested, who actually proposed this professional association to be entrenched in the Tourism Act. And we found we could not be able to accommodate them in this particular statute law amendment bill. So we advised them they can be able to propose a substantive amendment to the Tourism Act. So we dropped their proposal to be able to be entrenched in the existing act. We also met the National Association of Private Universities in Kenya, who actually agreed with the government that the proposal from the government that we need a definition of the university so that they are not appearing to be discriminated in the Tourism Act. So generally, we agreed with them so that we can entrench the term university in the Tourism Act. They also came with some other proposals which we rejected because they could be contradicting the Tourism Act. Otherwise, Speaker, that is all what we did. Ours was just a minor amendment, and I thank you, members.
Very well. The chair of environment isn't present, and so we'll make movement on this and open up to the other members. Top on the list is Honorable Amalwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First and foremost, I want to give the background of miscellaneous amendment bills. When you talk of miscellaneous, Mr. Speaker, these are bills which are kind of insignificant as per the objects of the Act. And Mr. Speaker, historically, you find that at times people sneak in some amendments which are significant, and this negates the principle of miscellaneous amendment. And Mr. Speaker, going through this bill, I realize that we have some which meet the threshold, and we have some which have significant amendment, and they should not have appeared in this statute law. First, Mr. Speaker, I want to salute Honorable Munyaka. From the amendment of the universities, actually that is a minor thing, because traditionally we've been having tourism course only certificate diploma level. So the issue of going to university, we've seen new universities now, and the universities have started introducing new courses based on the market. I know I'm aware more University is offering some hospitality and tourism and other university colleges. So that one is totally in order. It is miscellaneous, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the VAT Act that Honorable Limo has explained very well, and I want to thank him, because this is actually a minor issue of the input and output tax. And of course, the issue of the 6% was introduced so that, as he clearly puts it, the intelligence can go to KRA, and KRA can be able to get that signal that X did business with Y. So 6% has been submitted. Why have you not submitted the remaining 10? And they'll tag the time frame so that when you go beyond, Mr. Speaker, you are going to be given a fine. That is very good, and of course, it qualifies. However, Mr. Speaker, I only have an issue when it comes to this one of public finance management, which talks about the parliament. That amendment, Mr. Speaker, it is so significant that you cannot sneak it in here. And if I give you the genesis of this amendment, Mr. Speaker, Parliament has attempted 3 times and it has failed. This amendment is so significant that it should have come on its own, Mr. Speaker. As we speak right now, we are aware about the Parliamentary Service Act, which we have been debating, Mr. Speaker, but it reached a level whereby the public thought that it was an increment of the salary of MPs. We had His Excellency the President making his comment. But at that time we said, he made the comment maybe he had not been informed accordingly. As we speak, this bill is before the floor of the House. We discussed at the second reading, Mr. Speaker, and it disappeared from the order paper. The House business needs to explain why. Maybe because of the temperatures that were high. The same objects that were in that bill, they're being sneaked here, Mr. Speaker, on the pretense of accounting officer. When you talk of accounting officer in any institution, Mr. Speaker, this is a significant amendment. And that's why I oppose that this particular section, if the issue of the Parliamentary Service Commission Bill Act was in place, then we'll be amending that. But you cannot use a statute law, Mr. Speaker, a statute like a PFM Act, to amend what is in the Constitution. Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, because this is an independent commission, and for consistency, to be like other independent commissions, it should be left to do its job. And in the Constitution, it has gone further to specify, Mr. Speaker, that the chair of parliamentary service will be none other than the Speaker of the National Assembly. There was a meaning in that. Why didn't they say any speaker, whether the Senate or whatever? It was specific. And it went further, Mr. Speaker, to say that the secretary of that commission shall be the clerk of the Senate. It never said about that the clerk of the National Assembly. No. So, Mr. Speaker, it's very, very unfortunate that you can use an act of parliament to amend what is related in the Constitution. This is very wrong, and it's in a bad taste, Mr. Speaker. And it's indeed important, if this is the motive, obviously, we expect the Senate to debate on this matter. I listened in terms of public participation. Article 118 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. You have to involve the public. And I'm working on a law on public participation, which you don't have. We're just using the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. In this case, Senate comes very critical on this matter. But now, because of this, in the spirit of Article 110, we are sneaking it out. The senators in the public participation, I never heard that any of the leadership of the Senate was actually represented. And this matter has been here before yourself, Mr. Speaker, you came to this parliament. It's been an issue. It's been an issue between the two brothers. We can talk of sibling rivalry, but it's supposed to have fairness. So, Mr. Speaker, I need a ruling. I'm requesting a ruling because My humble request was for this section to be withdrawn from this miscellaneous because it's unconstitutional. It is totally unconstitutional. We cannot use an act of parliament to amend the constitution. This is not fair. We must talk openly. Maybe people might have some different interests. I know we've been having issues when it comes to the joint services, but why don't they sit down together because you have a Parliamentary Service Commission, whatever regulations that might be there, can resolve this. But this matter is in bad interest, Mr. Speaker, and I'm calling upon the ruling on this, that this particular section must be withdrawn, because I've given you the genesis of this. It has attempted to be in this House 3 times. And the best position for this particular section, Mr. Speaker, it should be handled under the Parliamentary Service Act. We know very well many commissions, Mr. Speaker, they've been operationalized through a statute law. And when we were debating the BSc, Mr. Speaker, we said we have commissions and we've operationalized them. SRC, we have an SRC Act. TSC, we have the TSC Act. And when we talk of Parliamentary Service Commission, we don't have an act. So this is the time we are trying to resolve this matter under the Parliamentary Service Act, Mr. Speaker, which is actually on the floor of this House. It came before this statute law. So I find it mischievous, Mr. Speaker, in bad taste, to sneak in this particular section to this particular miscellaneous amendment, because it's so significant. Its objective is not insignificant. So it should be ruled out, and I'm humbly requesting for the ruling in terms of the constitutionality, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
You know, Honorable Amalwa, even before I give Honorable Mutai Kiplagat, you know, I've listened to you, Honorable Amalwa. At some point you said that that amendment that relates to PSC and the designation of accounting officer should actually not come through the miscellaneous statute. It should have been that the PSC Act should have been existent. That is what we should be amending. But then as you came to a close, you said it is actually unconstitutional. But it was not very clear, because I suppose you are referring to Article 127 about Parliamentary Service Commission. You know, as I give direction and ruling, doesn't need. I don't need to even take a lot of time on that. Article 127 talks about the Parliamentary Service Commission, where the Speaker is the chairperson. I guess you are referring to where the PSC, the clerk of the PSC of the Commission, shall be the clerk of the Senate. I suppose that's where you are referring to. Now, if you look at the statute law itself, the one we are dealing, the miscellaneous amendment that we are dealing with, on the face of it, it doesn't seem to touch Article 127.3. Doesn't seem to dispute the Article 127.3 at all. It's about designation of accounting officer. You know.
I say the PSC is one of the independent commissions as per Chapter 15. And there must be consistency when it comes to these independent commissions. And I gave an example. It's like the Judicial Service Commission, the TSC, for instance, whereby you find the secretaries of those particular commissions is the accounting officer. So for purposes of consistency, where parliamentary service is also there, we can't go and purport to create extras because it's stipulated there. So the Senate clerk, in other words, I'm saying, he is the one who is supposed to be the accounting officer. This will be in line with other independent commissions. So what I'm trying to say is we are trying to change the meaning, particularly in Article 127, to start creating other accounting officers. PSC, the accounting officer, should be the secretary, just like other independent commissions. And the secretary is the clerk of the Senate. So for purposes of consistency, that's my argument, Mr.
I find this, yes, Honorable Maro, I find this question, what you are raising, quite straightforward. And I think I will just give direction on it. But what is it, Honorable Imo?
Mr. Speaker, as much as we want to give Honorable Chris Wamalwa the respect which he deserves, but you see, we have to also make it clear that this particular amendment does not really refer to the Constitution, does not, that does not actually amend the Constitution, as you have rightly said. Mr. Speaker, I want to clarify one point which you have stated, that there was no leadership from the Senate which was represented. I confirm that.
As I said, this is pretty straightforward. Honorable Anga, I'll give you, do you want to speak to the miscellaneous amendment or to this particular one? On what Honorable Malwa mentions. Yes, you can speak to that, and that's the last person, and then we make progress.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having served in the Commission in the last Parliament, the reason that arose for creation of more than one accounting officer is the unique nature of Parliament. Because previously, we had a unicameral Parliament, in which case an accounting officer could be in charge of everybody and they would be the same, it wouldn't be a problem. But when we got to a bicameral Parliament, we then saw the need for the National Assembly to be managed on its own with an accounting officer, and the Senate to be managed on its own with an accounting officer. And I think there is another service, which Honorable Wamalwa also referred to, which is the joint service, which are services that serve both the National Assembly and the Senate. For example, accounting services, services for cleaning, and other services such as those. And currently, I think there is a bit of difficulty saying who's going to pay half for this and another half for the other one. So when the Commission seeks to now have authority to create another accounting officer or other accounting officers as necessary, it's just for ease of management. But, and therefore, I do not see that there would be any mischief in that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Marwa, on the face of it, actually without even having a considered further perspective on what you have raised, Article 127 on Parliamentary Service Commission, and especially the Secretary to the Commission, which you referred to, who is the Clerk of the Senate, there is, and now the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill number 29, particularly the amendment to the Public Finance Management Act, 2012, number 18 of 2012, there is absolutely nothing unconstitutional. This bill does not seek to change the Secretary to the Commission. The Public Finance Management Act itself gives the Cabinet Secretary power to designate accounting officer, even within one institution. And that is why, as we speak now, there are actually 2 accounting officers. But you see, the Commission, and if you actually go to the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons of this Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill number 2019, the Commission in its 256th meeting held on 14th February 2019, actually, from an internal and from an administrative point, just to have the institution function well, actually put it that they need to have an additional accounting officers within the Parliamentary Service Commission and Parliament as a whole. So there is absolutely nothing unconstitutional. We rest at that. But Honorable Marwa, it is okay for you to be opposed to what is in the law. It is within your right. Shall we have Honorable Mutai Kiplagat?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for making a clarity on that, Mr. Speaker. Just to add on one line, Mr. Speaker, that issue, Mr. Speaker, under Parliamentary Service Act, the same person is accountable to the Parliamentary Service Commission, and the person under the Joint Service administratively is accountable to both clerks of the houses. So in that sense, Mr. Speaker, it's not creating another center of power or usurping somebody else's power. Let me come to the current issues, Mr. Speaker, also, which I wish to comment on, that wish to say thank you to this House for rising up to the occasion when it came to these amendments, this bill. First, Mr. Speaker, I look at the Companies Act, the amendment under Section 93 of the Companies Act, in which, under this current, in the bill, Mr. Speaker, there is need to have a register of a separate file of beneficial owners in companies. As it stands, Mr. Speaker, there is no clarity when it comes to other members, general members of the company, and the beneficial owners. But this bill will give clarity to that, Mr. Speaker, and I want to wake and say thank you for doing that. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this House rose with occasion. There was an amendment which was rejected in the bill, Mr. Speaker, which I want to thank Parliament for doing that. There was an amendment for Section 275A to create a new section under 275A of the Companies Act. In that amendment, Mr. Speaker, there was an amendment requiring a private company to convene an AGM every year. That would have been onerous, Mr. Speaker. The current position, which was settled when the new Companies Act came in 2015, is that only the public companies have to convene an AGM every year, Mr. Speaker. Section 310 of the Companies Act makes it mandatory for that in every year there must be an AGM. But to sneak in and call for public companies to call for an AGM would have been very onerous. These are companies that need to work independently. They don't need a lot of red tape. In fact, if anything, Mr. Speaker, it would have been very difficult because these companies have mandated the directors to make decisions. And under the Article of Association and Memorandum, the directors have that leeway to make decisions on behalf of the shareholders. And there is no need for private companies to have to call for an AGM every year. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, there was an amendment also that was rejected, which I saw that Parliament rose to the occasion. There was an amendment on 329 on Section 329 of the Companies Act. In that amendment, Mr. Speaker, there was trying to have the directors to only allot shares of a company when there's a resolution made by all the members. Can you imagine a scenario, Mr. Speaker, where somebody sits in an office and cannot make decisions and has to wait for a resolution of the shareholders to make that decision? And I would say, I saw Parliament rose to the occasion and safeguard the interest of companies that are growing, companies that are trying to do business in this country. And I would say, this is a step in the right direction, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also look at an amendment which has been brought on the Court of Appeal Organization and Administration Act. There was an amendment, Mr. Speaker, wanting to increase the number of holidays the Court of Appeal judges have, or increase the number of days they go on vacation from current 45 to 90 days. That was rejected, Mr. Speaker. Currently, we are crying that there's a lot of backlog. We are crying for more judges. We are crying for more hearing days. And yet you have somebody sneaking in an amendment requiring the same magistrates and the same judges of the Court of Appeal to go on vacation for 90 days. That was uncalled for, Mr. Speaker. And I have to say, I support this bill to ensure that in rejecting that and ensuring that the number of days on vacation are kept as it was. And if necessary, Mr. Speaker, we can still reduce the number of days the Court of Appeal judges are going on vacation. Mr. Speaker, there was an amendment on Section 311 of the Companies Act, which was flatly rejected, in that somebody, Mr. Speaker, was trying to sneak in the percentage in which somebody can take over from 90% to 50%, where the minority shareholder can be forced to see their rights or their shares in an event of a takeover. Mr. Speaker, that was oppressing the rights of minority shareholders. It was a way in ensuring that the majority always oppressed the minority. And in rejecting flatly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you for that. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to support Mr. Limo on his sentiments on the amendments on the VAT and say, Mr. Speaker, the amendments that were done were in the right direction. I only have a reservation, Mr. Speaker, that next time we are doing an amendment, let's bring amendments through the normal legislation. The amendments that we are dealing in an omnibus way in this manner through statutory amendment is not good for this country. We require serious time to transact on those legislation. We require to interrogate fully on these legislation that are coming in. Sometimes, as Speaker, you find that an amendment is brought in, but when the office of the Attorney General are called in, they come and deny that you are not part of that as part and parcel of that amendment, and they don't know the origin of that amendment. So we have a scenario, Mr. Speaker, where certain quarters want to use this parliament to sneak in certain amendment for their own selfish interests. We need to rise up, Mr. Speaker, and I want to urge the necessary institution that when next time we're dealing with amendments of this nature, the amendment on Insolvency Act, Companies Act, let's transact as a major amendment of that legislation, but not through an omnibus bill. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Tonui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also comment on this miscellaneous amendment bill. First, on the issue of VAT Act, I do support some I oppose strongly. On the VAT Act, where the chair explaining that a taxpayer can offset the tax directly at their own level, I believe this needs to be interrogated further. Otherwise, I can see there is going to be some certain loopholes where we may lose revenue. The government may lose revenue because of possibly fake cases of offsetting the tax within the companies. On the issue of PFM Act, the separation of the roles of the accounting officers for the Senate and National Assembly is welcome. This is a different house. The Senate is a different house. I believe this is in order, and I do support it strongly. On the issue of Tourism Act, that we are introducing the word university, I believe this is a small introduction. I believe it's good to introduce the word university in the world of tourism so that we know that you can now do even the courses in tourism up to PhD level. I believe this is welcome. We are used to there's so many mushrooming colleges offering possibly even substandard courses for tourism. So I believe by including the university level, that is quite welcome. Then I also support on the Companies Act, the issue of introducing the requirement that if additional members are to be introduced into a company, then the consent of those other members of that company must be sought. I believe this one is quite welcome so that we cannot have fake members of a company. What I'm not so clear about it is when we have a section in this Companies Act where it says delete what is put down in that act is including information relating to beneficial owners. And we were being assured it will revive it. It did not revive it. Possibly because KQ does not own planes. What it owns is just a company, and then the planes are owned by other people, and they are leasing from them. So when we release 20 billion, they pay to companies overseas, like in Cayman Island. Because when you have companies which are Kenyan companies, but registered overseas, being the ones owning the planes, which Kenya Airways is using, I believe is a conduit to loot this country. So I believe information even on those companies which are doing business in this country but registered overseas in Cayman Island, like those ones owning the planes leased by KQ, should be available so that when we spend 20 billion of taxpayers' money to assist KQ, we should be knowing who are the beneficiaries. When we guarantee 75 billion loans which have been borrowed by KQ, which means the Kenyan government is taking over that, that means the taxpayers are losing money. We need to know who are the beneficiaries of this offsetting of such loans, which I believe the Companies Act should be able to avail that information for any member of the public to be able to access. On the issue of Districts and Provinces Act 1992, where we are simply, I believe, where we are giving power to the CS to make regulation. I believe this is only making adjustment to clean the act so that it conforms to the present times. Because currently there's real complications. I have even a very big problem in my constituency. We have a section, one of my wards being considered to belong to another constituency in terms of provincial administration, simply because I also have other wards from other constituencies being included in my district, in my Bomet Central district. So there are those issues which needs to be corrected, and I believe if we empower the CS to do that, that will be taken care of. I saw in the morning Majority Leader accusing members that they have lots of conflicts of interest, that when there is a particular act being dealt with, they come in numbers to support that, and once it goes through, they disappear. And he alluded to the issue of betting and gaming laws, which he said members come and support and they leave. Surely, members cannot be accused when it comes to betting that they have been favoring those companies which are engaging in this. In the 11th Parliament, we adjusted the tax on betting to 50%. But presidential memorandum reversed it to 35%. In this same Parliament, we retained that 35%. The presidential memorandum through the finance bill reversed or reduced it further to 15%. So where is the conflict of interest? Is it within this Parliament or it is outside there in the executive? Things must be very clear where the conflict of interest is. Because I believe by Parliament fixing it at 50%, that was very, very good. But the executive reducing it from 50% to the current 15% was quite unfair. There must be conflict of interest outside there, not inside this house. Because currently we have so many youths engaging in betting. They think that they can become rich through this betting. That is all they engage. They are borrowing money, they are in M-Swari, they are borrowing from friends, selling even the items to engage in betting. This is, they ensure that the rich become richer while they continue languishing in poverty. So those issues should be clarified.